So after my last investment strategy into random Steam keys proved to be somewhat of a success, I decided to take things a little further. Today, we're gambling.
What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, you heard that right. We're gambling our hearts out today, specifically by buying a mystery box bundle from Fanatical for 17 euros. I mean, just look at these amazing games you could win. And a 1TB OLED Steam Deck, which we're definitely, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, walking away with today. Alright, first up this time we have Circle Empires. You know Mr. Maker, that one kids show? Yeah, I'm convinced the developer grew up watching Mr. Maker, got to the I Am a Shape episode, saw the circle,
I am a circle,
and just had a spiritual awakening. Bro is never the same again. He dropped everything and made a game about circles. Your base is a circle, their base is a circle, the whole damn map is just circles with shit in them. It sounds like the dumbest idea ever conceived by a human being, and it kind of is, but it's also genuinely fun. It's faster than your average strategy game, like you're not sitting there for an hour carefully building your perfect little base before anything happens. Things move, you're making decisions, you're expanding. It's fast enough to keep you from getting bored and slow enough that you don't feel like a complete idiot. The units are pretty solid, decent variety, nothing crazy, but enough to mess around with. The buildings though, there's like 4 of them. 4! It's a little embarrassing if I'm being honest. Here's the thing though, do not try to play this game for more than an hour. Trust me on this one. This is strictly a game for when you have 20 minutes and you just want to demolish some circles real quick. So you play 2 rounds, you close it, and you go touch grass. Alright, moving on, we have Sapo 3D, and honestly, it's alright. It's basically a little collect-a-thon platformer where you run around as a frog, collecting flies, jumping on shit, and doing general frog activities. The whole game is only like 1 or 2 hours long, so it's not exactly a massive commitment. That being said, I started getting kinda bored after about 20 minutes. There's only so much frog-related activity a man can endure before he realizes he spent 20 minutes of his life pretending to be an amphibian. The highlight for me was a desert area. I even ran into this chicken that throws explosives at you, and somehow I got too close to the dumb bastard that it basically threw a bomb directly at its own feet. The thing blew itself the fuck up and turned into what looked like a freshly cooked KFC bucket. I don't know if that's what the developers intended, but it was definitely the funniest thing in the game. Now look, is Sapo 3D a masterpiece? Hell no. It's literally a frog jumping around collecting flies. But it's $3. Most of us have spent more money on way dumber shit. I know I have. If it looks interesting to you, just buy the damn thing. Worst case, you're out $3. Best case, you get a couple of laughs and watch a chicken accidentally speedrun natural selection. Moving on, we have Schrott. And I don't even know where to start with this one. But yeah, I straight up did not like it. This game felt like it was actively trying to annoy me. First off, the controls. At some point, I was genuinely convinced my controller was possessed. Like I'd be driving normally and suddenly the game just starts doing random inputs on its own, like it's got ADHD and a gambling addiction. I know my controller isn't broken, so either this game is haunted or the devs coded in chaos mode for no reason. And the gameplay loop is basically driving your car, collecting scrap, upgrading, and you repeat it. You're basically an unemployed raccoon on wheels picking up trash so you can afford slightly less suffering in the shop. The roads also split sometimes, but it doesn't even matter because it all leads to the same vibe anyway. It's like choosing different lanes in life and ending up in the same IKEA parking lot no matter what you pick. It's repetitive as hell. You'll swear you've seen the same stretch of road like 14 times because you have. At some point, I wasn't even driving towards a goal. I was just emotionally commuting. So yeah, Schrott just didn't hit for me. Between the haunted steering wheel, the recycled roads, the scrap goblin gameplay loop, and the music that sounds like it should come with a free divorce, I was done. Moving on, we have Tiny Robots Portal Escape. Now, going off the Steam screenshots, I was 100% convinced this was going to be some soulless AI generated shovelware, but somehow it's actually kinda good. It's basically a mix of puzzle solving and escape room mechanics, where each level is like a tiny robot themed diorama you poke, rotate, and mess with until something clicks. And to its credit, the game does keep things fresh. One level, you're battling a giant mechanical spider like it's some low budget boss fight. The next, you're casually feeding a robot monkey a banana like you wandered into a Saturday morning cartoon.
What the fuck is he talking about?
The tonal whiplash is real, and it works. There's also a story in there somewhere, something about saving your grandpa, but I mentally checked out after about 5 minutes. Now here's the problem. The game is easy, like aggressively easy. I never had to stop and think, and I never had a satisfying moment. I just rotated the camera, clicked obvious things, and the game basically solved itself out of politeness. It's the kind of puzzle game where you feel less like a genius and more like you're just politely agreeing with the solution. So yeah, the game is surprisingly charming, weirdly funny, and not the acid flip disaster I expected. Next up is TinyShot, and I'm pretty sure this is a Binding of Isaac clone. And if it's not, it definitely took a lot of inspiration from the game. So the gameplay is pretty simple. You're thrown into this small arena where enemies keep spawning, and you just kind of survive until the timer runs out. You run around, you shoot everything, you pick up ammo that spawns randomly, and you try not to get swarmed. And typically with these games, there's a boss that shows up at the end just to keep you on your toes a bit. So it's one of those games where you just kind of turn your brain off and you just kind of move, shoot, dodge, and you repeat the cycle over and over again. There's also upgrades and more stuff later on, but honestly, the game didn't really hook me enough to stick around and find out. I got bored pretty fast. It just kind of feels repetitive and nothing really stands out enough to keep you playing. That being said, I did enjoy blasting enemies. There's something satisfying about running around like a complete idiot, shooting these funky little creatures and barely surviving. So if you're into that, jumping around like a fucking lunatic, you'll probably have a good time. And if not, you'll probably be done with it in like 20 minutes. Next up, we have Pesterquest, and holy fuck, I don't know if it's just me. Maybe I just hate games with a fuckload of text like visual novels, or maybe this game just really fucking sucks, because this story genuinely feels like it was written by a 10-year-old. I just couldn't take any of it seriously, and since the whole game is basically just dialogue, that's kind of a big problem. Like, there's barely any actual gameplay here, which, okay, fine, that's what the game was going for, but you're mostly just sitting here clicking through text for ages, and if the writing doesn't grab you, it just becomes painful really fast. The art doesn't help either. It's really bland and nothing about it stands out, so there's not even much to look at while you're going through all that dialogue. And then there's the music, which honestly pissed me the fuck off. And I just realized I judge games hard based on their music. And the second I hear some goofy ass merry-go-round sounding track that doesn't fit the vibe at all, I'm instantly annoyed. It completely kills whatever mood the game is going for. At one point, I genuinely felt like throwing the game into a nuclear reactor and just letting it disintegrate. The characters don't make it any better. I had to sit there talking to this one smug-looking idiot for like 10 minutes straight, just clicking through dialogue, wondering when it was finally gonna end. Moving on, we have little dungeon stories. For a game that's literally just swiping cards left and right, this one was actually kind of fun. The whole game is super simple. You're basically going through a dungeon by making decisions on cards, like fighting enemies, picking up loot, healing, or just trying not to die in stupid ways. There's also a bit of strategy to it. You're not just mindlessly swiping, you actually have to think a little about what you pick, how you manage your health, and decide when it's worth taking a risk. It's just a simple, chill game that you can play for a bit without thinking too hard. The music is fine. There's nothing special and nothing offensive. It's just kind of there doing its job. So overall, yeah, the game's surprisingly decent for what it is. It's not something I'd play for hours, but definitely a nice little time waster when you don't want anything too serious. Moving on, we have Metamorphosis, and I really thought this game was gonna be absolute garbage. Like, deep down, I was even hoping it would be ass, just so I could close it after 10 minutes and move on. But yeah, no. I actually really fucking enjoy this. You play as a dude who gets turned into a bug, which already sounds like something I could not care about at all, but it actually works. The whole game is basically you going from point A to point B, climbing around, using the environment, that kind of stuff. Some of the animations are a bit wacky though, I'm not gonna lie. Like, they can look a little off at times, but it didn't really ruin anything for me. What surprised me the most is that there's actually some depth here. Like, it's not just a bug game, there's a bit more going on with the story and the world, and it kind of pulled me in more than I expected. Like I said, I honestly didn't think I'd enjoy a game where I'm just a stinky bug running around, but here we are. So I could actually see myself coming back to this one. Moving on, we have Loud, My Road to Fame. So Loud is a rhythm game where you play as this girl trying to become a rock star. Crazy premise, am I right? I bet you've never heard that one before. Anyway, as I said, it's a rhythm game. You hit notes, you sometimes hold them, and you sometimes spam them like your life depends on it. The story itself is, like I said, nothing crazy. It's just your standard slightly cringe teenage follow your dreams type stuff. Like, it's okay, the story's fine, but you're not gonna be playing this for the story. You're here for the gameplay. And to be fair, it does kind of work. If you like rhythm games, you'll probably get into the flow of it pretty quickly, especially if you're one of those Osu players that can somehow mash buttons at the speed of light. But here's the thing, and I really don't like saying this, especially for a rhythm game, the music's just kind of mid, and that's a problem. Like, this is literally the one job a rhythm game has, and it just kind of doesn't show up. And without good music, the whole thing just feels way less exciting than it should be. It still works mechanically. yeah, but it just doesn't really hit the spot. So as I said, if you like rhythm games, you might still get something out of it, but for me, it just didn't land. Next up is Akimbot. Or is it Akimbot? I don't even know how to pronounce the name. And I'm not even gonna try because I hated this game. It was so annoying to play. And it is primarily because of one thing. The game's attempt at making a claptrap type character from Borderlands. God, I hated this fucking character. Like genuinely, every time he talked, I just wanted to shove a metal beam down his throat and make him shut the fuck up. It was not funny, it was not charming, it was just annoying. And the worst part is, he talks a lot. So you're just stuck listening to him constantly. Like, listen to this motherfucker.
Yoo-hoo, Mr. Driver!
Shut the fuck up.
It also didn't help the fact that the voice acting in general is just really mid. There was nothing that really stood out in any good way. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I wasted a lot of time with this game because nothing really clicked. It had annoying characters, it had mid voice acting, the music was weird, the combat was off, the environment was also kind of weird. I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I wasted a lot of time playing this game and it feels like I should have stopped playing this game 10 minutes ago. Next up, we have Cheap Golf, and I'm not gonna lie. Halfway through playing this, I genuinely thought I downloaded malware. I was fully convinced that I let some Indian scammer remote into my PC.
Do not read in the card! What?
But no, that's actually just the game. So Cheap Golf is basically a mini golf game, but it's also really not. At its core, you're just launching a little ball into a hole using simple click and drag controls, which are super easy to understand, but it very quickly stops being just about golf and it turns into more of a physics puzzle game. You got moving platforms, weird hazards, odd level designs, timing stuff, so it becomes less about aim and shoot and more about figuring out what the hell the level is even asking you to do. Visually, it looks intentionally rough, very retro, kinda clunky, almost like an old arcade game that got left in the sun for too long, but it actually works in its favor. And then there's Susan, the in-game AI voice that comments between levels, and she's just constantly talking like your computer developed a personality and decided to roast you. It adds this weird layer where the game feels like it knows it's a game and it's kind of messing with you the whole time. Level variety is also surprisingly strong. There's a ton of stages and they keep introducing new ideas so it doesn't feel stale right away. Some levels are normal and some feel like you accidentally entered a physics experiment. It's not a hardcore grind game, but it's definitely a fun little experience. Next up we have Coromon, and I know this is basically a Pokemon ripoff and I really thought it was going to be a really bad one, but surprisingly Coromon is actually pretty solid. Like you can tell they actually cared about making this game. It doesn't feel like it's just a lazy copy-paste Pokemon game because there's a surprising amount of effort here, and it actually feels like they wanted to make something good instead of just cashing in on nostalgia and hoping nobody notices. The art style is really nice, it's clean, and the music is also pretty solid. It's nothing insane, but it does its job without trying to attack your ears. And the world did actually feel quite alive. The characters do move around a little bit, and they do have personality, so it doesn't really feel like they're just cardboard cutouts waiting for their turn to speak. But at the end of the day, it is still very much a Pokemon inspired game. You feel it everywhere. The structure, the battles, even the way you accidentally start grinding without realizing you've been doing it for 40 minutes. Also, what I did is I made my character look like a 60-year-old bald man. So the whole game just felt like I'm forcing this exhausted retiree to relive his trauma by fighting cartoon animals while everyone around him treats him like a fresh 10-year-old kid. But anyway, as I said, I did go in expecting a terrible clone, but I actually came out pretty impressed. So up next we have Dark Deity. And Dark Deity is a cute little indie RPG that kinda reminds me of Fire Emblem. Honestly, I went in expecting it to be either really bad or just a total knockoff, but it's actually pretty solid. The combat is probably the strongest part. It actually makes you think a bit instead of just mindlessly clicking through fights. And yeah, I was basically sending children into war the whole time, which I guess is just normal in this genre at this point. The story is also okay. The art style wasn't really my thing personally, but I can't say it's bad. It just has that slightly rough indie look. Same with the music. It's fun, it does its job, it's nothing super memorable. So the game is definitely not like a trash Fire Emblem clone, but it's definitely a pretty solid indie version of it. I could definitely see myself coming back to it if I just wanted Fire Emblem itch scratch without actually booting up Fire Emblem. Next we have Ad Infinitum. And okay, let me start becoming clean about something. I genuinely hate horror games. Yeah. I'm a massive coward. Go ahead and crucify me. But anyway, Ad Infinitum is a horror game set in World War I. Two things that are already terrifying on their own, somehow being combined into one game. You kick things off receiving a Morse code message, and then you're sprinting through World War I trenches before getting absolutely obliterated by an explosion.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Next thing you know, you wake up in a creepy mansion summoning a demon.
Wow, that's a lot.
And yeah, that's basically the loop of the game. Creepy mansion, trenches. Creepy mansion, trenches, and it just keeps going back and forth. Gameplay wise, it's your typical horror fare. You solve some puzzles, you hide from monsters, etc. The atmosphere is decent. The World War I setting is cool and pretty underused backdrop for horror, but I'll be honest, it didn't really fully grab me, though that might be because I was playing through my fingers the entire time. I probably should have given this game more time, but I do have a reputation as a coward to maintain, so we're moving on. Moving on, we have Hammerwatch. It's a hack and slash adventure game where you fight an absolutely obscene number of enemies, you collect money, you upgrade your character, and you push through levels. There's secret rooms to find, some puzzles thrown in, and bosses to beat. I played the game on normal difficulty, and I will be honest with you, I was basically a god, an unstoppable force of nature carving through enemies like a lawnmower through wet grass. So I probably should have bumped up the difficulty, but I was having too good a time feeling powerful for once in my life. Now, is there a complex narrative that will make you question your existence? Absolutely not. Is the music particularly memorable? No, but here's the thing, sometimes you don't need the game to go the extra mile for that. Sometimes you just want to turn off your brain and absolutely demolish 600 little guys and feel great about it, and Hammerwatch delivers that in spades. It's really fun. I would really recommend this game, especially if you just had a bad day and need something to take it out on. Up next is How to Say Goodbye, and this is a puzzle game where you solve puzzles by moving the map around and walking to a door. Now look, I won't bore you with this game because I stopped playing this game after like 10 minutes. The concept is fine. You shift the environment around to create a path forward, but it's just so aggressively bland that I couldn't will myself to continue. The sound design is actually decent though, and the music is also fine, which is a really weird thing to be highlighting in a puzzle game, but this is the only positive thing I could find about this game. And look, I do try to give every game a fair shot. I really do, but this one just didn't do it for me. Up next is the game I was looking forward to the most, Postal Brain Damaged. So I did actually knew of Postal going into this. The reputation, the chaos, the complete and total disregard for good taste, and I'm thrilled to report it fully delivers. This game is an absolute blast. It's a fast-paced boomer shooter where you run around, blast enemies, move fast, and just completely lose your mind in the best possible way. The movement feels great, the gun variety is excellent, the jokes are genuinely funny and completely unhinged, and the whole thing just kinda has this beautiful energy that is honestly refreshing. But none of that is the main selling point. No. The main selling point is that you can piss 50 meters. 50! I need you to understand the range on this, man. That is not a gameplay mechanic, that's a superpower. So honestly, if you've had a rough day, a rough week, a rough year, boot this game up, find the nearest enemy, and you already know what you have to do with him. It's possibly better than actual therapy. So yeah, the game's fast, it's dumb, it's hilarious, and it's completely self-aware about it. I highly recommend this game. Moving on, we have Trooper Redux, and man, I really wanted to like this game because nostalgia hit me like a truck. I played this as a kid like 10-12 years ago, and I remember it being awesome. So I booted up with a massive smile on my face, and within about 15 minutes that smile was gone. The controls are clunky, the cover system is one of the worst I've encountered, and the gunplay just feels awful. Like everything is just slightly off in a way that's hard to pinpoint but impossible to ignore. And yes, as I said multiple times before, I do try to be fair. It is an old game, and old games get a pass sometimes. But even accounting for the age, I'm sitting here thinking, how did I even think this was good? What was I experiencing as a child? Or was I just simply easily impressed? So I came to the conclusion that nostalgia is a hell of a drug. It will have you out here defending games that simply do not hold up. And Trooper Redux taught me that lesson the hard way. Ah, man. Rest in peace to the version of this game that existed in my head. Next up is Saga of Sins, and I'm gonna give this game points for the concept and points for the presentation, but then we hit the gameplay and the points just kind of start going backwards. The art style is actually great. It looks like a stained glass window came to life, and the voice acting is also surprisingly solid. So out of the gate, strong impressions, but then you actually play the game, and the gameplay loop is very simple. You enter someone's mind, you take on different forms with different abilities, you collect some coins to upgrade later, and you escape the mind. And this is just a rinse and repeat. Now on paper this sounds pretty interesting, you know, entering people's minds to fight their sins is a cool concept, but in practice it's just kind of it sits there. It's not anything special, and I'm sure it opens up more down the line. I really believe that, but a game has to make me want to get to the good part, and Saga of Sins just didn't quite pull me in enough to find out. So as I said, the game is gorgeous and I unfortunately got bored of it. Next up we have Sclash, and Sclash is a samurai game featuring gender-bent Japanese gods, which is a sentence I genuinely enjoyed typing. Let's start with the good, because there's no debate here. The game looks incredible. The art direction is stunning. The visuals are gorgeous. Every frame looks like something you'd want as a wallpaper. So whoever was in charge of how this game looks deserves a raise. But then you actually play it, and it's just fine. The gameplay is your typical stamina-based combat system. You have your attack, you have your parry, and you have your severe dodge, and you're mostly just 1v1ing bosses with some minor enemies sprinkled in between. It's not bad by any means, there's some satisfaction to landing a clean parry, but it's nothing you haven't seen before. The difficulty has a bit of a bite to it, but honestly most fights go down faster than you'd expect, so even that doesn't fully stick. And then, just before you know it, it's over. The game is short, like surprisingly short, which brings me to my next problem. Full price is hard to justify here. You're essentially paying for a very pretty experience that's over before you fully settled into it. So if the game is on sale or free, it is worth your time. But full price, I would rather spend the money on literally anything else. Next game is Stars in Shadow. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I played this game for 5 minutes because I booted it up, I started a campaign, and I had no idea what the fuck I was supposed to do. I tried finding a tutorial, but I didn't, and I'm not gonna look up a fucking YouTube video on how to play a fucking game, so I just closed it. Next up is Troublemaker Beyond Dream, and boy oh boy, a game that didn't just disappoint me, it literally tried to kill my fucking PC, even though I meet the recommended system requirements. I want to make something very clear here. I am not running this on a toaster, and yet within minutes, my GPU hit 100% and my PC started sounding like it was preparing for liftoff. But anyway, the game. It looks rough. Like really rough. The movement is also very clunky and the story seems to be doing something, but I couldn't really tell you what. You start off the game by beating up some dudes who are bullying a guy, and then completely out of nowhere, the game switches to a rhythm game, and at this point, my PC once again tried to ascend to a higher plane of existence. And this is the point where I got really concerned once again and decided to close the game. And finally, we have Fobia, Saint Dinfna Hotel. Which, yes, another horror game, and yes, I did play it, and yes, I was scared. But this one is genuinely creepier than Ad Infinitum, and I say that as someone who barely survived Ad Infinitum. The sound design in particular in this game is doing some heavy lifting here. I really wanted to turn down the volume, but come on, even I'm not that big of a pussy to do that. The setting is a hotel where time traversal is somehow on the table, which you discover through a camera you pick up early on. It's a really cool mechanic that kind of reminds me of Outlast. Now, I didn't play the game as much as I should have, and I can already tell you there's a lot of depth I left on the table. But what I did play impressed me quite a lot. It's a solid horror game with great atmosphere and some incredible sound design. I would absolutely recommend this game if you're braver than me, which, let's be honest, is a low bar. And that's gonna be it for this video. Even though the bundle did not meet my expectations, I was still pleasantly surprised by some of the games. Now, if you enjoy watching me make terrible financial decisions, drop a like, subscribe for more, and let me know what you thought in the comments. It helps me cope with what I just did to my wallet.